Brooklyn Independent Television.
Coney Island is a legendary part of Brooklyn where generations came to leave their work behind, to relax by the ocean and play in its amusement parks. But as businesses failed, housing deteriorated, and unemployment rose, that legend slowly became tarnished. In the very recent past, however, that trajectory may have been reversed. Here to tell us all about what's new and encouraging out by the boardwalk is Nathan Bliss, president of the Coney Island Development Corporation. Nate, thanks for being here.
Thank you, a pleasure.
So, I hear a lot of great things about Coney Island. Tell us what's new.
Sure. So the Coney Island Development Corporation was formed in 2003 with a purpose of creating a planning effort to address some of the long-time issues facing both the amusement district and the surrounding neighborhood. People forget that Coney Island is not just an amusement park that people know around the world. It's also a neighborhood and a home for some 60,000 residents. So this Coney Island Development Corporation was formed with the goal of creating a strategic plan for a rezoning, for some capital investments, for some interventions by the city to put both the amusement park and the neighborhood back on a growth trajectory. We're all inspired by the images of Coney Island from the turn of the century. We strongly believe that we're making incremental steps towards returning to that same grandeur.
So what have some of the more recent successes have been?
Well, one of the big milestones and turning points for Coney Island in the past 5 years was the passage of the rezoning. That was in 2009. It was the result of a lot of debates and inquiry from all the different stakeholders who have some ownership over what happens in Coney Island. That's from property owners to residents to the amusement businesses themselves. The rezoning was an ambitious 19-block complete rethinking of an area that predominantly was vacant land or parking lots. And that included a amusement area that had gradually declined over time to really less than 3 acres of active amusements. It also included areas to the north and to the west of Keyspan, now MCU Park, the baseball stadium where the Brooklyn Cyclones play, and which in and of itself was a milestone in Coney Island over the past decade. But what the rezoning does is it ended the decades-long uncertainty about what sort of development rights would be afforded in the amusement area. And it set on a economically sustainable vision for how an amusement area with new uses such as hospitality, expanded sets of small-scale retail, restaurants, sit-down restaurants, things that had been prohibited by the old zoning could now coexist with an expanded amusement park. So the rezoning set in motion a series of investments by the city, including some purchase of property, the development in the past 2 years of 2 amusement parks, Luna Park and Scream Zone, investments at the New York Aquarium, investments at the Brooklyn Cyclone Stadium, and investments, importantly, in the district's infrastructure, everything from sewer, sanitary, domestic water systems, to private utilities, things that will eventually enable private developers and the city to realize the vision of the rezoning, which all told could result in 4,000 to 5,000 units of new housing, 20% of which we envision will be affordable under the city's inclusionary housing program, some 27 acres of new entertainment complex, including a 12-acre amusement park that now sits on city parkland, as well as movie theaters, bowling alleys, restaurants, Nathan's Famous, all the things that we know and love about Coney Island, but an expanded presence, an increasingly year-round presence, something that will give somebody in January a reason to come down to the boardwalk as much as in June or July.
So the uses would become much more integrated. It would become more of a mixed-use 24, 12-month-a-year destination.
That's certainly the vision. Coney Island is a beach. Its main destination, which we should never forget, is what Mother Nature gave it, a beautiful south-facing beach. But it also has the potential, as neighborhoods along that same coastline have realized, including Brighton Beach just down to the east, to attract business, to create jobs, to create economic activity, even in the shoulder season, which we call anything from Labor Day to Halloween, or from Palm Sunday to Memorial Day, the traditional opening of the core season, as well as the off season from the time in between, December, January. Nathan's is open year-round. The aquarium is open year-round, 365 days a year. We'd like to introduce some other uses that could complement those and bring people down to Coney Island.
So what about the small business community that is, some of which have existed for decades
Sure.
in Coney Island? What are some of the what have some of the impacts been on the small business community? What do you see for the future of small businesses in Coney Island?
Well, Coney Island's interesting because it's always been this landscape of small-scale innovation. It was the place where you try new things out, from the hot dog, which was invented there, to soft-serve ice cream, to, believe it or not, the baby incubator, first debuted in Coney Island. That was an amusement park attraction and popularized the technology before it even went to hospitals. And to this day, we see that same sort of innovation in the nooks and crannies, the small spaces, the seasonal push carts, and just across the district, we're seeing some of that same activity. Earlier this year, the world's smallest microbrewery opened in a tiny, I believe it's 150 square foot space that's operated by Coney Island USA, which is an arts incubator, has this business incubator space in Coney Island. And they're starting a business. They have a business model. They're also affiliated with Schmaltz Brewing Company, which has created Coney Island Lager, which is now available across the United States. So they're building a business there in Coney Island, and they wanted to be there because it's a place where you can test a new product.
Sure. With
a captive audience.
And as the sort of vision unfolds, and we build the housing, for example, and just we have more people
Yes.
Living, year-round in Coney Island, I imagine that's going to be good for small businesses in the long term.
The idea, Mermaid Avenue is a neighborhood retail corridor. We'd like to see Surf Avenue become both a neighborhood and destination retail, commercial, and entertainment corridor. Part of that is the 60,000 residents who live in Coney Island. Part of that will be the 4,000 to 5,000 new units of housing. And then the transportation improvements and the marketing that we can do to bring even more of the 48 million tourists who visit New York City every year down to Coney Island as part of their trip. The more economic activity that we can create for South Brooklyn.
And how do you think this is going to impact employment and sort of the jobs picture in Coney Island?
Very importantly, we've projected that the rezoning over 30 years could create as much as $14 billion of economic activity for the city. 25,000 construction jobs, many permanent jobs in hospitality, entertainment, retail, and as well as in support of the new residents that are projected to move into the neighborhood. First and foremost, I work at the Economic Development Corporation. This is an economic development initiative. It's designed to create opportunity for the local neighborhood and for the city of New York. And already we're seeing some results. In the 2 years since we opened the 2 new amusement parks, through tailored programs and working with the community-based organizations, with the local electeds, we've been able to market those new opportunities, those job opportunities in the local neighborhoods with great results. Over 50% of those who were working at Luna Park and Scream Zone at their inaugurations were local residents of the Coney Island community. And that took a lot of work. It took a lot of effort, but businesses and stakeholders in Coney Island used to be historically connected to what was happening in the amusement area, and we're increasingly seeing those linkages strengthen, and I think we'll only see that more going forward.
Well, that is really, really great to hear. So Coney Island will once again become the economic engine of southern Brooklyn.
That's the plan.
Great. Nate,
Excellent.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Randy.
Okay.
Watch this and other Brooklyn Independent Television episodes online at brickartsmedia.org/BIT.